Hey guys, my name is Amanda and I have lived in a house on the water. For a long time, I thought it was a very cool thing until an accident happened to me and my friend. First of all, I want to tell you that my parents have long dreamed of an unusual house. We considered many options up to a medieval castle, but when we saw the house on the water, we immediately fell in love with it. It was equipped with everything one needs for a comfortable life. There was electricity, the internet, and good furniture. The structure stood on a pontoon and was attached to the shore with tight ropes. Without any hesitation, we bought it. At first, we had to get used to it for several weeks because we felt that the house was swaying a little on the water, and I felt sick several times. However, soon that disappeared. But my friends were very jealous of me. They also wanted to have such a cool house. Thanks to it, I instantly became the most popular girl in the class. I was happy with everything. But soon, I started hating this house. The thing is that we lived in an area where there were no severe storms. Because of this, many people did not really think about the safety of their yachts, boats, or houses. My parents were sure that nothing bad would happen, so they didn't want to buy additional equipment to strengthen the housing, and it played a cruel trick on us. The annual exams were approaching, so my friend Franny and I decided to prepare for it at my place. My parents went to my grandma's place for the whole weekend, so no one bothered us. Franny was constantly saying that she would very much like to live there. But the next morning, she changed her mind. We fell asleep early as we were very exhausted. We slept all night so tight that even a cannon shot would not have woken us up. In the morning, when we opened our eyes and looked out the window, we got numb because of the shock. We were surrounded only by water, and some parts of the house were slightly flooded. There was no land around. The thought that this was a nightmare immediately came to my mind, but it was reality. I didn't understand how this could happen, and I was gripped by panic. It's good that Franny was with me. She was also very scared, but she quickly pulled herself together and ordered us to scoop up all the water from the house. This took several hours, but there was something worse than flooding. All our gadgets were broken. We couldn't call anyone, and the house continued to float on the waves somewhere in an unknown direction. It was obvious that there had been a heavy storm at night, and we were just carried away because the ropes were not that strong. We had to get out of there somehow. The first thing that came to mind was to scream loudly, but no one responded to our crying. We were alone in the endless sea. Franny then suggested making a huge red flag that could be seen from afar. This seemed like a good idea to me, but in reality, it was totally impractical. For several hours, we've been making and attaching the flag to the highest point of the house. But at night, such strong winds started blowing that it was immediately carried away. The house was rocking from one side to another all night long. Sleeping was out of the question. Franny and I were hugging each other and hoping that this nightmare would soon come to an end. And all this time, we've been afraid that the house would either turn over or it would be severely flooded and we would drown or be eaten by fish. Fortunately, nothing bad happened, but we suffered serious losses. A bigger part of the roof was blown off by strong wind gusts. Then it was impossible to hide from the sun rays and rain in the house. Also, Franny and I noticed that there was almost no normal food left in the fridge since there was no electricity. Many of the food products were spoiled, so we had no choice but to start fishing. We made fishing rods and attached bread to the tips, using it as bait. We've been sitting in the hot sun for several hours, but we never caught anything. Suddenly, we noticed a threatening fin. These are often shown in films or books. This was definitely a shark. Fear that made my friend and I get numb because of shock and fright. We literally froze and could not move. It was even scary to take a breath. The shark was swimming over near the house and wasn't going to leave. Moreover, it seemed to me that because of it, the house began to sway on the water even more. At that point, I vividly imagined her huge jaws and frightening appearance. Franny couldn't hold it and began to cry, but it seemed to me that the shark was about to hear her sobbing and turn us over. But nothing happened. Soon the predator swam away, leaving my friend and I alone again. We never managed to catch a fish, so we were terribly hungry. I found some expired cookies in the house at the bottom of a can, but sweet food only increased my appetite. It was terribly difficult to be there and realize that we would not be found soon or would not be found at all. I thought that we would die from hunger faster than another storm, and I also remembered the exams for which we were preparing so thoroughly. They took place just that day, but we didn't show up. If we survive, we will have to repeat the year because of missing the exams or dropping out of school. The night, as always, was restless. Outside, there were huge waves and the house was being flooded. Not only the seawater through the broken windows, but also with heavy downpour. I saw how quickly this was happening, and it seemed to me that we would definitely not survive the night. It was useless to go out and scoop up the water because it was unsafe to be outside. But this time, everything calmed down quickly. As soon as the sea stopped raging, we immediately began to get rid of all the water in the house. However, we didn't manage to do it as fast as the first time because we had absolutely no energy left. Franny was growing weaker quickly. She even moved very slowly. I put her on the bed and said that I would go fishing alone. I urgently needed to catch at least one small fish. It was hot outside, but I was not going to give up. Despite the fact that my skin was burned the day before and blisters caused by the sunburn appeared on it, I was sitting and waiting for the rod to finally start shaking. After this happened, I immediately hurried to get out of the water. Yeah, I managed to catch a tiny fish, but I was incredibly happy, even with the insignificant victory. I immediately rushed to Franny to boast of the fish, but she was almost unconscious. The thing is that she had anemia, and hunger as well as heat was dangerous for her. My friend could hardly speak and was asking for help, but I was powerless. There were no necessary drugs in the first aid kit. Then I decided to give Franny water to make her feel better, but to my horror, I noticed that our boiler broke down and was already empty. We had not a drop of fresh water left. I was confused and did not know what to do. My friend was feeling worse and worse every minute, and I was already running out of energy. I was gripped by despair and no longer hoped that we would be saved. But suddenly, I heard deafening sounds. At first, I thought I was already hallucinating because of hunger and stress, but Franny heard them too. I looked out the window and was ready to cry with happiness. It was a rescue team on a boat, and they were honking at us. I immediately went outside, started screaming and waving my arms. Tears of happiness appeared on my face because I could not believe my eyes. They finally found us. Rescuers immediately took us on the boat. They helped us and told us that they were searching for our floating house for several days. For some reason, it seemed to me that we were not carried so far away, but I was mistaken. The search area turned out to be huge, and storms at night made the work more complicated because neither boats nor helicopters could function. When we were taken ashore, our parents immediately began to hug us and tell us how worried they were. I still could not fully realize that we were rescued, and for some reason expected some kind of danger, but over time, the feeling of anxiety left me. After this incident, my parents bought an ordinary house, but this time it was far away from the sea. Franny also came to her senses, but now she was scared to go into the water, and I understood her perfectly. There was only one thing that made me happy. The headmaster read about our rescue in the newspaper and allowed us to not take our exams since we encountered great stress. How would you cope with such a difficult ordeal? Suddenly finding yourself at sea together with your home? Give your answers in the comments. Click on the thumbs up button below and share the video with your friends.